Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Judy Zelina. Today on our program we are going to be talking about Social Security. Every year there are so many changes and again so many questions. We all have questions about Social Security. And on our program we have the person that has all the answers to Social Security. Familiar face, John Johnston. Thank you, John, for coming on the program.
Hi, Judy.
Today.
Thanks for having me. Always love being here.
It's always a pleasure. I have to tell you though, John and I, when we go to do a show, he'll shoot me an email and say, Judy, let's talk about this, this, and that. So I get all prepared, and then we start talking, and it's always something different. So it is today. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that John says he's been getting a lot of questions about lately, and it's something I don't know if we've ever talked too much on the program. Survivors benefits.
Survivors benefits. Yeah, I thought it would be a good topic. I always get a lot of questions on widows, and as I was thinking about today's show, like what's something that we haven't touched on yet, and I don't think we've ever explicitly just devoted a show to survivors benefits. And you know, my mom's a widow, so I experienced personally someone going through the process, and I can understand how hard it is for the family when someone dies, and just to explain the process of what happens with Social Security. And I think, you know, we should start with the last Social Security check when someone dies. Oftentimes people are wondering whether or not the deceased is due that last Social Security check that is paid. Now, the way that we pay Social Security checks is 1 month off.
Meaning, when it's 1 month off, what do you mean?
So the June checks that are coming out now, this month, are actually for the month of May. Okay. So the person is receiving the check maybe on June 3rd or the second Wednesday in June. That's actually May's Social Security check.
All right.
So a person has to actually live the entire month to be due that check. If someone were to pass away on May 31st, they would not be due the May Social Security check. If they were to pass away on June 1st, they would be due the May Social Security check.
Okay, what about if the middle of May? Is anything ever prorated?
No, no proration with Social Security. You have to either, so it's an all or nothing situation with Social Security. So, and it is sad. I mean, we've had people who literally die at the last hour, you know, 11:50 the day, you know, on the 31st of May, and no, they would not be due the June 1st check. You have to live the entire month.
It's just the rules.
It's just the rules. It's just the way it is. And so a lot of times people are asking us, you know, do I return that check? What do I do with this check? A couple of things. If a person lives the entire month, the check will be paid out and they are due that check. If they don't live the entire month and we pay the check out, essentially what will happen is Treasury will actually go into the account and reclaim that money. So Social Security is the agency that pays, or that, you know, that deals with the entitlement factors for people's check, but Treasury is the agency that pays all federal payments.
Okay, so if they've direct deposited, they have the authority to go in and to reclaim those funds.
Right, and they'll actually, it's called Treasury Reclamation, and they'll go right into the bank account and pull the money out. Often, we've seen this scenario many, many times. You know, a person will pass, the widower will return the check to us, and Treasury will grab a check too. Okay, and that process will be happening simultaneously. We always tell people when someone passes, the best thing to do is to really take no action. Is to kind of let the process work itself out. I generally tell people if you haven't heard from Social Security within 30 days of a death, that's when a person needs to be proactive. Now we have in Erie County, we have a great relationship with all the funeral homes. So that when someone dies in Erie County, a statement of, and this is largely true, I'm focusing on Erie County, but this is largely true throughout the country. The funeral home will actually send us a statement of the death. And that statement is equivalent to Social Security receiving a death certificate. So, you know, that's the other thing. A lot of times people are bringing us death certificates. They'll come down to the office, they'll wait, maybe for an hour just to give us a death certificate, and we don't really need folks to do that.
Because you've already received notification. Okay.
I'd say 99% of the deaths we're receiving notification directly from the funeral home. And what we do with that death is, the first thing we do, if the person is receiving benefits, we do an input on their record to stop the benefits from being paid out.
Okay.
So why a person would receive a check they're not due? Well, we work on cutoff dates, so we have to do inputs by various times in the month to prevent the money from going out. So if someone dies late in the month, they often get that last Social Security check that they're not actually due. Most of the time, though, we're able to stop the money from even going out. Again, dependent on when we receive report of the death, dependent on some other factors, but most of the time we're able to stop the money. I would say most funeral homes will report the death to us generally within a week, some the day of or just the day after. So the funeral homes in Erie County are very responsive and are excellent at their reporting responsibilities.
So that's how they would know to be able to withdraw the funds by that notice that they've received that there was a death.
Exactly.
Here's a question. A widow or widower doesn't know that they aren't entitled to that, and they have withdrawn those funds, or they've written out written out checks against those funds. So when they go to reclaim those funds, it's not there.
Right.
What happens in that case?
Well, the individual, the deceased individual, is now overpaid on their Social Security record, and we'll try to recoup the money through many different methods. And if we can't recoup it just by sending letters or speaking to the survivor, we'll actually make a claim against the estate. Okay, we'll become a creditor from the estate. So actually one of the jobs that we have at Social Security is when a person is overpaid, and it's not only from their last check, maybe someone dies with an existing overpayment. Right. Okay, we become a creditor. And when the estate is settled, we get in line to get paid with any other debt that person may have. Okay. So, we research estates on when a person dies, if there is money that they owe back to Social Security. Okay. The other thing that is significant with the process of the funeral home sending us the equivalent of the death certificate is it also serves as a screening process for any survivor's benefits. So when the funeral home, is taking the information from the individual in the case of a death, they're also, and they're doing this, the person may not even know they're doing this, but they're actually screening for Social Security benefits. And they're determining, are there any minor children? Are there any disabled children? Is there a widow? And the form that they send to us has information about possible survivors. Okay. When we get that, not only do we input the death, we actually actively screen the record for any survivor's benefits. All right. We will proactively get in touch with people if there's any survivor's benefits that they are due. All right. Okay. Now, let's talk about what are these survivor's benefits and who's eligible for them. The first one is called the lump sum death payment. And that's a one-time payment that is made out. It's $255. I think we should say it's not a burial payment. A lot of people think like, oh, how can I bury somebody for $255? It's not a burial payment.
And I think people, I know that's how it was always referred to.
Yeah, and for years it was a burial payment. They changed it in 1984. Actually, if just a little bit of history, the lump sum death payment came about in the 50s, and it was really a result of people being concerned, the public being concerned about individuals who had paid into Social Security for a number of years and had no survivors. All right. So I don't have a widow, I don't have a widower, I have no minor children. What's going to happen to all this money that has been withheld from my check for all these years? Okay. And so Congress came up with what they called the lump sum death payment. Okay. And it used to be called, in fact, when I started in '96, there were still some older workers who would refer to this as the funeral home payment. And if a person didn't have any survivors, the funeral director could actually apply to Social Security for that $255 payment.
to put against the funeral.
Put against the funeral. And back in the 50s, I'm guessing $255 would have been a significant contribution to the burial.
Right.
I did a talk just recently, and someone joked around that it wouldn't buy the sandwiches and beer at the wake after the funeral. Okay, and that's probably true.
That is probably true.
And it's never increased. So you know, most people know that Social Security benefits are inflation protected, so that there's an increase each year. That $255 is the same in the 1950s as it was today. So obviously, inflation has eroded the value. In 1984, there was a series of amendments that changed Social Security, and it actually said that the lump sum death payment can only be paid to the widow or widower, or a minor child, or a disabled child who's on the number holders or on the worker's record.
Okay. All right. If I am entitled, and I find out that I am entitled to survivors' benefits or widows' benefits, are there different ages I should be looking at, and different times I should different ways of taking it?
Absolutely. Just, you know, similar to retirement benefits, widows or widowers' benefits are also age related.
Okay.
So a widow or widower becomes eligible at age 60. And they become eligible at age 60 for 71.5% of the full benefit. So just like in retirement benefits, a person becomes eligible at age 62, but they only become eligible for 75% of the benefit.
All right.
The benefit grows proportionately each month that the person waits to file.
Okay, got it.
So at the person's full retirement age, which for people who are retiring this year, that's age 66. For people born after 1960, their full retirement age is 67. The full retirement age would result in 100% of the benefit. So my mom, who's a widow, she took her widow's benefit at age 60, and she took 71.5% of my dad's benefit. If she would have waited to age 66, she would have taken the full 100%. Now, I think it's important to note that widows and widowers' benefits, like retirement benefits, are subject to the annual earnings test. So I know we've talked about it in the before, you know, one of the biggest questions I get asked is, you know, when do I take my retirement benefit? And it's, you know, usually because a person is weighing their options, like, do I stop my work? Do I slow down my work activity? Well, widows have that same question. They're going to be subject to the same, you know, rules as far as what they're allowed to earn. And this year, a person under their full retirement age is allowed to earn around $15,720. For every $2 they earn over that, we'll subtract $1 from their Social Security benefit.
Okay.
There's a great, I'll just mention our website, www.socialsecurity.gov. There's a great publication that describes our earnings and our earnings rules, and it's called How Earnings Affects Your Benefits.
All right.
And so anyone has earnings questions, I would advise them to check out that pamphlet.
Okay. Okay, now, I'm a widow. I've decided to take my widow's benefits at 60, based on my husband, my spouse, deceased spouse. Is that carved in stone, and am I locked with that for the rest of my life?
That's a great question, Judy. Widows and widowers are a unique class of beneficiary. They are only, usually when you take your retirement benefit, you take your retirement benefit at age 62, you lock yourself into that 75% rate.
Okay.
So you're going to receive that 75% for the rest of your life, and that's why it's such a big decision for people. Do I wait, or do I keep working? Widows and widowers kind of have, you know, an ace in the sleeve where they can change their benefit one time during their life. So I'll use my mom as an example again. She took her benefit at age 60, her widow's benefit.
Okay, the widow's.
She took 71.5% of my father's benefit. My mother was also insured on her own Social Security record, so my mother worked for a number of years as a teacher. We know, you know, based on past shows that we've had, retirement benefits, the range of when you can take them is age 62 to age 70. And the value range is 75% at age 62, 100% at the full retirement age, and then it increases 8% per year for every year after the full retirement age up to age 70. So the range to take benefits is really 62 to 70.
All right.
So what my mom can do is when she reaches age 70, she can actually turn around and file a claim on her own record and receive 132% of her own benefit. Okay, so she's locking herself into the 71.5% of the widow's benefit, but she can change that entitlement and then file on her own and not carry that initial reduction of her benefits with her.
Okay, and she is able to do that one time.
She's able to do that one time. She could do it at age 66 if her benefit grew.
All right.
I mean, most people will say is try to max out your Social Security benefit and collect it for as long as possible. So if you're collecting the widow's benefit at age 60, if you can wait to age 70 to max out that Social Security benefit, that's, that would be a strategy that a lot of financial advisors are talking about to end up with the highest Social Security benefit for the longest period of time. Now, it's also worth noting that a widower or widower, and say that 5 times.
No, you said 5 times. I can barely get it out one time.
There you go. So a widower or widower can also reverse that strategy. And what I mean by that is they can file the claim on their own record at age 62, let their widow or widower benefits max out, and then at their full retirement age, turn around and file a claim on their own, on the widow's record.
Okay.
So I can use my mom as an example. Again, if she would have reversed her strategy, she would have taken her own Social Security benefit at age 62, taken 75% value of that, and then when she reached age 66, she could have filed a claim against my dad's record and received a widow's benefit valued at 100%. Okay. Obviously, the strategy that a person takes is going to be based on the value of the benefit. If the widow's benefit is significantly higher than a person's own benefit, they probably want to delay taking the widow's benefits. If the person's own benefit is significantly higher than the widow's benefit, they probably want to delay their own benefit and take the widow's benefit in the interim. Now, again, of course, this is all about cash flow. Right. Person who needs as much money as they can right now to pay their rent, should file on the highest benefit that they need right now. But a person who is able to strategize, it is important for them to know that a widower or widower are the only class of beneficiary that can change their entitlement one time and not carry that, reduction that they took earlier.
Okay, we're talking about spouses that are married. Okay. Let's take some different scenarios. What about common law? Does the Social Security recognize common law?
We do. We recognize common law, but Pennsylvania doesn't anymore. Okay. So essentially, we...
And I did not know that.
Yeah, as of 2005, no more common law marriage in Pennsylvania. So unless a person can establish that their common law marriage began before 2005, we operate based on state law. Okay. So if the state that we're operating in recognizes common law marriage, the Social Security claims in that state can also, be married for that.
Okay. Now, is a divorced ex-spouse eligible for any spousal benefits?
They are. That's a great question.
Or widow's benefits.
Any widow's benefits. Yeah. The only difference between, a divorced widow and a regular widow, the value of the benefit is exactly the same. The one difference is the factor of entitlement. Their duration of the marriage has to be 10 years.
All right. Okay.
So if you know someone in a bad marriage for 9.5 years, you may want to tell them to hold on for those 6 months.
I'm not even going to go there.
There you go. And it's great that you bring that up. When I run into a divorced widow,
I don't think they know that. A lot of them are not aware of that.
I believe that. And when I run into a divorced widow, the one thing I tell folks, in survivor's case, the best thing to do is just let the process play out. Let the process breathe. Oftentimes we'll have someone come into our office, they'll sit and they'll wait, right the day after someone died. And, having watched my mom go through that, that's significant difficulties. And it's just, let the process happen. If you haven't heard from us within 30 days, that's when you're going to want to get in contact with us. But a divorced widow, generally the funeral home is not going to let us know about the divorced widow. Okay. So I always tell, any divorcee that I run into, and they're asking me benefit questions is, part of it is tracking to see if that person died, to see if they're eligible for anything extra. So they need to be a little bit more proactive in the situation.
Okay. John, all of this is on your website, any of these answers to these questions, and a little bit more in-depth information.
Right. We have a whole tab for survivors benefits.
And what I'd like to do is, I know there's so many things that you can find on your website. Can you let our viewers know again what the website is? And if they go on the website, what can they do?
Sure. www.socialsecurity.gov.
And that's all spelled out, socialsecurity.gov, okay.
And you can Google search it. You'll hit it like that. I do want to say, make sure you hit socialsecurity.gov. Just as a quick public service announcement, there's a lot of websites that mirror our site, like socialsecurity.com. Make sure you're hitting the .gov site, because that's the official site of Social Security. We don't make you pay for any services. If you're on a website that there's all this fine print on the bottom, and all of a sudden they're asking you to pay for something, you're not on the Social Security site. So our site is .gov, and you're right, there's many services that are there, including being able to find out estimates for benefits, being able to actually file claims. We have a whole tab. If you go across the top, you click on benefits, there's a whole tab devoted to survivors benefits. There's also a great frequently asked questions. Oftentimes a person will call me up and ask me a question, and I'll go right to the website, pull up the frequently asked question, and give them the answer like that. Okay. Our frequently asked questions cover many topics.
And they do.
Yep, that people have. And the one service that I want to spend a minute talking about, it's a newer service that folks may not know about, and it's what we're calling My Social Security. Okay. And it actually allows people to set up an account on our website so that anytime they visit our website, they can have a personalized login. They would use a username and a password, and they would log into the account. Once they log into the account, if they're an existing customer, meaning they're receiving a benefit, what they see is like a Social Security dashboard where they can manage their benefits right from there. Okay. They can do small changes like direct deposit changes. They can request a replacement Medicare card. They can print a replacement 1099. They can, and you wouldn't believe all the people who contact us for replacement 1099s between January and tax day.
Yes, I do.
You probably do, because you're right in that business too.
But
we have people waiting hours. That's a very busy time for us, and we'll have people coming into our office waiting hours. And I'm always thinking, my gosh, you could just print this up right from your home.
I want to talk real briefly, too, personally, give my personal input on the My Social Security. To sign up for it, it is really easy. If I can do it, anybody out there can do it, believe me. It really is easy. And what's great is, all kidding aside, I can go on there anytime and I could see what my potential earnings are at any age and what I would be eligible for. So, and like you said, make a lot of changes, any changes I need to make. What if I need a new Medicare card?
You can do that right off of the My Social Security account.
See, there you go.
And it is a different view. I'm glad that you brought that up. Our existing customers kind of have that Social Security dashboard to manage their benefits, but future customers, like you and myself, I also have a My Social Security account. Basically, the statement that we used to mail out to people each year that mysteriously disappeared, it mysteriously started about 10 years ago, and it mysteriously disappeared about 3 years ago. Unfortunately, it was a victim of budget cuts.
Exactly.
And so essentially, you can now see that statement on the My Social Security page, and we encourage all workers, even younger workers, to sign up for this account. People are paid their benefits based on the amount that the employer is reporting to Social Security. So we depend on an individual's employer to report their wages to Social Security. It's actually the individual's responsibility to make sure that their earnings record are correct and to make sure that their earnings are being reported correctly. I've seen multiple cases in my career where just administrative errors are made. Right. Maybe a Social Security number, they're trying to report someone's wages and they report it one number off. So the wages never hit their record, and when they look at their statement, rather than seeing the $30,000 or $40,000 they earned that year, they'll see zero in wages. It's very easy to correct that error when it's 1 or 2 years old. It becomes more difficult when you're trying to correct an error that's 20 years old or 30 years old. So we encourage all workers, even future customers of ours, to sign up for that account and to check their statement at least once a year.
Okay. I'm going to tell you something. This has been some great information. It really has. Because, again, we haven't talked about widows' benefits. We've talked about the My Social Security, but I don't think you can talk about that enough. It's really a great, great service. And it's secure, too. I do want to mention that. He has promised that you guys have all kinds of locks and everything involved, so nothing can get compromised.
And for people who don't want to deal with our online services, they can actually put a block on it. They can actually opt out of having any of that. So there's a segment of the population that does not want to do that.
If someone wants to make a phone call, John, what phone number, if they want to talk to a human voice, what number can they call?
1-800-772-1213.
John, thank you so much for joining us. We could talk probably for another hour.
We'll have to do it again soon.
We have done this, yes, a lot longer. But anyhow, viewers, please get on the website if you have any questions. Read the frequently asked questions. If you have any questions and want to give them a phone call, please give them a call. And again, John, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Always
Judy.
a pleasure. Viewers, thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.